This is Greg Troutwine with Marine Technology TV. We're here at the Ocean Business 2017 in Southampton, and we're with Carl Kenny, the President and CEO of Kraken. Carl, you're a busy guy. First and foremost, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Greg. It's great to be here.
Okay. Well, Carl, I'm sure most of the people who are watching this, most of the people who read the magazine know Kraken, but for the uninformed, can you give a brief overview of the company?
Yeah, we're a systems and sensor company. We started off developing synthetic aperture sonar a number of years back, and have migrated now into building complete systems. And in the near future, we're moving into underwater robotics. So basically, I describe the company as a sensor to systems company.
Okay. Carl, we've worked together for many years, and I've always known you to be an innovator, kind of pushing the envelope. When you look at this subsea business today, the role of robotics, the role of automation, what do you see?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, from what we see in all the sectors we play in, which is defense, offshore oil and gas, science, there's a growing demand for more automation and more robotics, like we're seeing in every other industry. In our game right now, we talk about having autonomous underwater vehicles, and in fact, I think, Greg, they're really automated underwater vehicles, and there's a big opportunity to apply artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to make these systems even more smart and actually become unmanned. Because you think about it today, you're deploying a robot, it takes a team of people to get it out there, and the whole promise of the robots have not yet been realized in the underwater space. That creates a big opportunity, not only for our company, but for our industry across the whole, in terms of sensors, battery technology, propulsion, software, high-performance computing, and the actual machines and devices themselves. So the future looks really, really bright. I hear lots of laments from our friends in the oil and gas industry with the downturn, but that also creates opportunity. It's an opportunity now to do things differently, and the seminal thinking that we're seeing in the oil and gas industry, particularly at oil at $50 to $60 a barrel, is how do we do things differently? And that's going to be driving, I think, a whole new resurgence in robotics. The last wave of innovation really in this industry, one could argue, that happened in the late 90s with the proliferation of ROVs, when we saw ROVs come on. And that was primarily driven, the investment in the R&D behind that, from the oil and gas sector to take advantage of these ROVs. And ROVs have become a multi-billion-dollar industry. I expect the same thing to happen with unmanned systems as we move forward.
Okay. You talk about the oil and gas business. Obviously, it's near and dear to all of our hearts.
Absolutely.
When you look at that business today, and again, we cover it from many angles, but when we talk of an industry that has sought to increase efficiencies across the board, shall we say, what do you see when you see the offshore oil and gas today?
Right along the lines you're talking about, Greg, it's increased efficiency and lower costs. I mean, it's a new regime. I'm not an expert on where the price of oil is going to be, but whether oil is at $10 a barrel or $1,000 a barrel, we have billions and billions of dollars of existing assets that are deployed subsea that need to be inspected, maintained, and repaired. So let's take an example of subsea pipelines. Over 250,000 kilometers of subsea pipeline that need to be inspected. Doing that conventionally with surface ships and men and equipment is very, very expensive. And the costs and the efficiencies can be dramatically increased by the utilization of robots. We're almost there. We now have the sensor technology, whether it's sonar or laser or optical technologies, to become the eyes for these machines. We're seeing high-performance computing costs plummet. Heavy lifting going on in other industries are aiding our industry to bring true autonomy and true artificial intelligence to these devices. And that's going to become a tremendous cost savings. We're talking orders of magnitude in savings, doing things the new way versus doing things the conventional way. And again, as I said, the existing infrastructure that's there, whether it's pipelines or trees or cables, and now also the renewable sector with wind turbines and ocean tidal power, are all going to be demand drivers, huge demand drivers for this type of technology.
Well, I know with your history in this industry, you can attest probably as better to any that you have to invest to move forward. We've looked at some of the big issues of robotics in the industry. If we could really just dig down into Kraken right now, how you're investing, and the technologies that you're really focused on, the technologies, the specific products and systems that you are now bringing to bear to address some of these problems.
Absolutely. I mean, in our game, it's a mantra inside Kraken. It's innovate or die, and we've done that from the get-go. We looked at synthetic aperture sonar technology about 7 years ago. Saw, hey, this is really cool technology, but it was very expensive, particularly for the commercial world and ocean science. It was primarily a military technology, and we sought to change that, and we did. We invested heavily in commercializing SAS to now it's able to compete with high-end side scan and provide tremendous cost advantages to the operators. Recently, we invested in laser technology. We opened an office in Germany, in Bremen, and have some really smart people up there doing work on both laser imaging and also artificial intelligence. All of these sensors are coming together in our platform strategy. We just launched a new high-speed towfish called Catfish, which is just finishing its sea trials right now successfully, I'm happy to add. So that's our first foray into the robotics world. And we're not going to stop there. We're a small micro-cap company, but that gives us the ability to go to the market, raise some capital to continue to fund the development of these new technologies. In the near term, Greg, you will be hearing more of our work in robotics. We just signed an IP licensing deal with Fraunhofer, which is a big German research institute. Did a really cool 6,000 meter rated AUV. So we're licensing that technology and acquiring that AUV. And we're building on that to a program we call Thunderfish, which is going to be our turnkey, full underwater robotic system, including our sonar sensors, our laser imaging sensors, all the work that we're doing in AI and machine learning to actually really become, I think, one of the first, if not the first, truly autonomous vehicles that will have the ability to be cognitive of the environment and, more importantly, to be able to adaptive to the environment. Most of the robots out there today are automated. So they go from point A to point B to point C to point D, the so-called mowing the lawn, gathering data. And in fact, it's not really an efficient way of doing it and requires a significant amount of post-processing of that data. We want to do it real time. We want to be able to tell the robot, go search this area and find me things that look like this.
Okay.
So that's the kind of efficiency that we'll be able to achieve and the enhancements that we can give to these platforms.
Okay. And just finally, again, new technology, I think, as you might also attest, sometimes gets a little pushback from people who have done it the way they've always done it.
Absolutely.
I guess just if you can, in a big picture sense, do you still see that today? And I guess if you do see it, what do you count as an important piece to kind of push technology to those who might resist it?
Yeah, you see, I mean, it's kind of the innovation dilemma, right? Particularly in larger companies where they've been doing this thing the same way for years and years and years. And I've always said, and I have lots of friends who work in these big companies, and there's nothing wrong with big companies, except you have to have the courage to eviscerate yourself.
Yeah.
You have to have the courage to innovate. You have to have the courage to change.
Yeah.
And that takes risk. So, people sometimes say, let's innovate, but let's not have any risk. They don't go hand in hand, right? Now, to your question about technology has advanced everywhere now. We don't have to wait 15 years to prove that a digital camera works or a new cell phone works. The same thing has to happen in our industry. That the technologies are robust, the underlying support infrastructure, the techniques that are used, the components, the modules that are used are proven to be very, very robust. We're seeing the military, adopt things much faster. Why? Because they have to. Budgets are being cut back, and we have to do more with less.
Okay.
So the technology adoption rate, I think, is going to increase, and it'll be driven by innovation.
Okay. Carl, you're a busy guy. I'm sure you have things to get to. Again, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Greg. Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right. This is Greg Troutwine with Marine Technology TV.